I'm Carrie Gorman-Job, and welcome to Tecsys in Conversation. Today, we'll be speaking with my friend Cory Turner, Senior Director of Healthcare Strategy at Tecsys, to discuss the elements involved with hospital receiving. Controlling inbound hospital deliveries using multiple points of entry can lead to pretty inefficient workflows. And so today, we're going to be taking a deeper look at the new Tecsys Elite Healthcare Hospital Receiving application and how it can integrate into your supply chain delivery process flows. Cory, thanks for joining me today. Can you please tell us a little bit about your background and give us a quick overview of the new hospital receiving application?
Thanks, Carrie. So yes, my background in hospital supply chain started 25 years ago. So for the past 25 years, I have been involved in some way, shape, form, or fashion in the hospital healthcare supply chain venue. Everything from direct hospital supply chain management, pharmaceutical warehousing, and currently here at Tecsys, doing a number of things with our AEs and with our product marketing team. So it's been an adventure and quite a ride. And like you said, today we're going to be talking about the receiving application and all the things that it's going to do for the hospital supply chain in a whole, in its entirety. So what we're talking about is the direct receiving dock on a hospital, at a hospital. It's probably one of the most overlooked, underutilized areas within a hospital today. It's I like to call it organized chaos, if you will. So it's a lot of things moving at a lot of times, with a whole lot of different workarounds and processes and tribal knowledge and all of that stuff that's mixed into the supply chain and receiving supplies. So it's a real buzzing atmosphere when you're on a loading dock at a hospital because there's a lot of things coming and going at one time. And what we're doing is we're trying to gain efficiencies by having one solution, one source of truth for receiving for the loading dock at a hospital, from anything from tissue, from pharmaceuticals to med surg supplies coming from a consolidated service center. So that's really what we're doing is we're streamlining that approach for one application where now it is multiple applications, multiple ways of doing things, multiple workflows and processes. So if you just can wrap your head around organized chaos and streamlining that into one lane, that's what we're doing with this hospital receiving application.
I like it. I live my life by organized chaos.
That's right.
um, Cory, tell us a little bit about the top reasons why customers should talk about receiving.
So right now, in a hospital and especially in supply chain, we are notorious, and I say we because I've been doing it for 20 years. Um, we are notorious for creating workarounds. Workarounds meaning we're going to do everything that we can to have the right supplies delivered to clinicians to support patient care, no matter what it is. So if we don't have a specific process in mind or a specific process in place, we're going to create one. We're going to do the best we can to get those products to the patients as quickly as possible. Now, the problem with that is the workarounds. We tend to we get the job done and we're going to do it the best way we can, but a lot of times it's not the most efficient. It's not the most streamlined approach for our staff and for the processes in the background, such as AP and things of that nature, who have to pay the bills and support the vendor management systems. So what we're doing with this application is we're just, like I said before, we're bringing that organized chaos into organized efficiency, organized, streamlined efficiency, because we have a lot of things in supply chain that are already running well, from a consolidated service center approach to the point of use approach. But when we talk about that supply chain, that true inefficient or that true efficient supply chain, there's always been that gap in the middle, that rusty link, that weak link, if you want to say those things, and that's the receiving in the hospital. Those guys do a phenomenal job at their process, at what they're doing, and we're trying to make that better for the hospital, thus making it better for patient care and supporting those clinicians doing the job that they're paid and called to do.
So, Cory, most hospitals use their ERP to receive inventory. Tell me a little bit about the benefits of Tecsys's receiving application and how that may improve efficiency in processes and what's being used today.
So that's a good question, Carrie. The ERPs are designed for uh, the support functions of a hospital, finance, HR, and portions of supply chain. There's portions of supply chain that the ERP are not streamlined to do. Um, so what they're doing on a receiving dock is they're taking the pieces and parts that are meant for our ERP system, meaning the items that are assigned to a PO. So if there's a purchase order assigned to a specific order, that is right in the ERP's wheelhouse. They are streamlined and they can do that well. The things that we're bringing into that fold are the things that are non PO items, non trackable items, the things that need lot and serial tracking, the things that need temperature control tracking. Those are the things that we're trying to bring into the fold on a hospital receiving dock. And those are the things that the ERPs are not necessarily designed for. So what we're doing is we're giving hospital supply chain departments the ability to do it all in one application and therefore streamlining that approach.
Yep. One stop shop.
One stop shop. That's what it's all about. And those guys need that because right now they're all over the place.
All right. Hospitals do have to deal with unexpected deliveries with no reference to a PO.
Hmm.
So, how will Tecsys's receiving application address those kinds of use cases?
So it's going to do one thing really well when it comes to those unexpected deliveries, unexpected packages. And what I mean by unexpected packages or deliveries, when I was on the loading dock, we would see a lot of packages come in that did not have a PO, that didn't have any reference identification. It may say it's going to the C-suite, or it may say it needs to be delivered to Dr. Smith, but you don't have any identifiable information. There's no PO, there's no packing list, there's nothing that gives you any idea in the system what it is, where it needs to be, other than maybe a name, maybe a department. So those are those unexpected deliveries. It could be textbooks. It could be anything from a, a, a hand delivered letter that needs to go to the C-suite. It could be a bottle of wine, for goodness sakes. There's a lot of things that have come into a hospital system that may not have any kind of identifiable markings. So what happens is, and the way we used to do it, and it was a horrible system, I know, but 20 years ago we did what we had to do is sometimes they'll take a copy, literally take a copying machine and take a copy of the label of the package. And then they know if they know where it goes already, if it's going to Dr. Smith, well, then they have a copy of the packaging sticker on the outside, the label. And then they'll get a signature for it. And then it comes down to go into their filing system, which is the metal filing cabinet off the loading dock, never to be seen again. It's in a filing system that, Joe in every hospital receiving doc has a Joe who knows how everything runs in the hospital. Joe's the only one that knows how to file that system away. Well, then it's lost. There's no trackability. There's no, information saying this was received at this day at this time. It was delivered to Dr. Smith or Dr. Smith's admin, and it was signed for at this time. So that you lose that traceability throughout the system. So that's what is meant by unexpected deliveries, and we can do that within this hospital receiving application, therefore adding to that streamlined approach on a hospital receiving dock.
So, let's talk a little bit about tissue tracking. So, can you describe how more complex receiving processes like the chain of custody requirements for bone and tissue tracking are handled?
Yeah, so when you're talking about a specialized package, a specialized item such as bone and tissue coming into a hospital loading dock, you want to treat it with specialized care. You want to treat it because it's coming for a specific reason for a specific patient a lot of times, or a specific use case on a patient. So you want to treat that much differently and much more uh, effectively than you would say, denture cups or anything like that. It's a specialized item, so you want to treat it as such. So when it's coming into a loading dock, you know, the paperwork may be there, the paperwork may not be there. So having something that can give you a way to effectively receive it into the system, uh, verifying the temperature, verifying serial, lot, expiration date, all those information in that application is invaluable because right now what happens is the receiving doc may receive it in the ERP if it has a PO, but then when they gets to the OR typically is receiving it in again into whatever tissue tracking system they have. So there's multiple systems, there's multiple work that is being done. So again, we're just trying to streamline that approach to where we can track it and track everything from the lot and serial expiration date, track everything that is needed on a specialized item such as tissue and bone from the receiving doc, from the first time that it hits the hospital location, not after it gets to the OR or places like that, because you need to make sure that the temperature is in compliance and that you have that traceability all the way through the process.
Yeah, have to track it the moment it arrives
The
for sure.
moment it hits that loading dock.
Hmm. So speaking of loading dock,
Mm.
receiving docks, they're often overlooked by supply chain leaders. Can you explain why this could become an issue for inbound hospital deliveries?
So when we talk about a hospital receiving dock being overlooked, a lot of times it's overlooked simply out of the fact that um, a hospital may not know that there's a problem. Leadership, supply chain leadership, C-suite leadership may not know there's a problem because of the fact, like I mentioned earlier, in workarounds and things that we have done over the years to get those patient supplies to where they're needed when they need it. So it looks like unorganized chaos, but it's actually, like I spoke to, it's organized chaos because they have it down to a science. Now, what they're doing is inefficient, it's unproductive because they're going a lot of places and doing a lot of manual processes, but they're getting the job done. So when we're talking about this hospital receiving application, we want to stress the fact that, we're just making their lives better. We're making their lives more efficient, more productive, and we're also growing that support for patient care, growing that high level of patient care that these hospitals already have. We're just supporting it and growing it to the next level because you're not wasting items, you're not losing items, you're really just getting more control over that loading dock to where right now, like I said, the workarounds are just everywhere. So getting that in under control to where a hospital supply chain leader and a C-suite leader knows that everything coming to that hospital is tracked, it's monitored, it knows we know where those items are no matter where they are in the system.
Exactly. 100% visibility and full confidence in what's going
Across the
on.
spectrum, we have to have 100% visibility enterprise wide. We talk about enterprise global inventory visibility.
Hmm.
Well, now we can truly say no matter where the inventory is coming or going from, on that loading dock, we know where it is. We know where it's going, who signed for it, what time of day it happened. So, like we talked about, special items. Let's talk about pharmaceutical items. A lot of times pharmaceutical items are just staged on a loading dock till a certain point during the day when they're delivered to pharmacy. Well, those are prescription medications for patients. If it's 100 degrees on a loading dock, we need to get those things moved. We need to go get those things a more efficient, streamlined process, getting them to where they need to go sooner and more effective.
So, if there is a healthcare leader out there that's evaluating using Texas's receiving application versus what's in place today, what would you say, or how would you advise them as far as the financial impact or even the time savings associated with using, you know, one-stop shop by receiving application?
Yeah, so what I would do is if I was talking to a supply chain leader right now, I would advise them to find out what is going on their receiving dock first off. A lot of times as supply chain leaders, and I was notorious for this, right, wrong, or indifferent when I was a director, is that we would get so busy in meetings and doing our job that we a lot of times we would lose focus on what is happening on a receiving dock. And that's what I mentioned earlier is one of the most kind of underdeveloped, underutilized, undersupported areas in a hospital because it just works. It just happens. It does what it needs to do. So I would first encourage a supply chain leader to go to the loading dock, to find out the systems, find out the multiple processes that are going on. And then that right there is enough to open eyes around a true, ROI or return on investment of a streamlined process because you have people, you have staff members going all over the place. You have, items that are going to the pharmacy that may be going to a lab. You have pharmaceutical items that should be going to, certain places. IT capital equipment. We didn't even talk about IT equipment, all the things that are coming in. So there's a lot of valuable high dollar items that come into a hospital receiving dock that a supply chain leader should have visibility over. They should have knowledge of what's going on and coming into their loading dock. But a lot of times we don't because there's not systems in place for that. So that in itself is enough for me to take attention to my loading dock and say, if there's a one way of doing it all, one way of bringing all that in together and growing that efficiency for my staff, I need to take notice. I need to look at that.
All right, Cory, one more question for you. So, what is your favorite thing about Tecsys's receiving application and what it does?
Oh, wow. So my favorite thing about the receiving application, I guess it's the fact that from a former supply chain leader and former supply chain worker, so I started out working on a loading dock in a hospital. That's what I did. My favorite aspect of this is that, for so many years on a hospital loading dock, we didn't know where these packages were supposed to go. We had a hard time verifying that if it was the right thing because paperwork may not be there, paperwork may be there. There's a lot of tribal knowledge that you just know over the years. My favorite part about this is that I can bring in new staff if someone retires. I can move people around and gain efficiency within supply chain because it's a one process approach for the hospital loading dock. It doesn't have to have, every hospital doesn't have to have a Joe on the loading dock that knows everything. There's a streamlined, scientific, methodical approach to receiving now. It's not, oh, do you know where this goes or do you know where this goes or call so and so to try to figure that out. It's, you know, a system led, system generated receiving and delivery approach.
Thanks for joining me today, Cory. This was really fun. It was a great opportunity to learn more about Tecsys's new receiving solution. And thank you to our viewers. If you need support with introducing hospital receiving into your healthcare operations, Tecsys is here to help. At the end of this video, you have the option to speak to one of our supply chain experts or learn more by accessing our blog post titled Take Control of Your Hospital Receiving Dock with Tecsys's Elite Healthcare Technology. Thank you for watching.